Hi, Ray. We're getting to the end of the optimizations or the website really for launch. There's one feature that I really wanted to do, and I've previously tried with other developers, and it's kind of impossible the way that I was thinking to do it, or the standard way to do it. But I'm thinking of another way which is a bit out of the box, which may work. So I'll just go through what it is. So let's zoom in on the Flinders Ranges, and these markers, they all point to the same place as the region marker. They just go to the Flinders Ranges page, at the top of the Flinders Ranges page. And the way that I initially envisaged this website was that these satellite markers, if you clicked on a satellite marker, it took you to the page, so Burkina Gorge, and rather than loading here, it would load down here, so that if people click on a satellite, they come to this part of the page. The problem is that I think, both Slider Revolution, or maybe not Slider Revolution, but certainly Essential Grid, they don't load their full height until they've loaded, essentially. So let me just show you. So if I refresh the page and I come to this point, you'll watch the page, so you can see that gap, and all of a sudden, boom, it's bigger. And it'll continue as the page loads in to continually get bigger and bigger and bigger as the elements load in. So previously we've had a look at can we open these, can we load these, the framework for them first, and then the images load in. So essentially the whole, the DOM, or the whole page structure is loaded before the images get put in. That way we could use a named anchor at a certain point to say, okay, so this is the point relative to the top of the page at this point, and then everything loads in. The problem is, as I said, these, if I load the page again, you'll see that the gaps are quite small. So we've got a small gap there. It's the same for Instagram, I'm pretty sure. So these all load in after the fact. So you can't use a named anchor because, anyway, so I think you get the idea. So what I was thinking is, if possibly, so this is a certain height, this image, it's always going to be the same height, as is this image is always going to be the same height, as is the Instagram feed. All these heights are going to be the same. So I was thinking maybe that we could define page structure. So load the framework first, so that it's already expanded. So maybe the Fusion container that holds this essential grid, and the Fusion container that holds this essential grid, and we tell it what size it's going to be straight up. That way, with all the page structure loaded in, we can then say, okay, and this point is where it's at. So when the named anchor comes in very early, it's at this point the image may not be there, but very quickly it will load in at the right point. So if I go to Essential Grid basically I've got, and it's like, well, what do we define? So the smaller images in Essential Grid are these even ones, and the masonry ones here are the large images. So that's the large and that's the small. So masonry and even. And then if I go to, where is one? Overview. Well, that's even as well. But this one is called Overview. So that's kind of a bit of an odd one. So there's some ideas. There's also, so we've got different in the actual page. So this one's called Essential Grid, and this one is called Essential Grid Large, and the overview there is called Essential Grid Overview. There are some variances. If I go to, let's say I try to add a container, and I go to library containers, in here are all my presets for different scenarios. So it's as these ones here: Essential Grid Large Only, Essential Grid Large Flipped, Small Combo, Small Only, and Flipped. These ones, those ones with the long descriptions on them, they're the exceptions. That's when if I might in some instances just have a large image, body text, large image, body text, large image, body text, rather than the small images. So there's separate spacing requirements, so different CSS. So if I was to get large only, so that's it there. Yeah, and that's got different, so, you know, that we could do it that way to try and define all of these. So once we've defined all of these, whichever way you think would be best, if we can do it. Oh yeah, and I will say that so the slider resolution is always 1360 by 720. They don't change. So that one's a bit more straightforward. So this is for the Scenic Gem pages. So Australia Attractions, Flinders Ranges, not the About Us page, not the map page, is not the home page. Just these Scenic Gem pages that we're talking about. So yeah, if all of these elements were predefined to for the heights, so that the entire basically website was expanded out, we could then use, there's a number of methods out there for named anchors. I've used named anchors in the past. So you could look that up, named anchors. There might be other ways as well, clever ways where it starts off at the top and then actually scrolls down dynamically and then stops at, you know, this point. I don't really need or care for that. It really just needs to this top of the image needs to be at the top of people's browsers, and then it loads in. So yeah, that's essentially it. That's the idea. Previously, we've tried and failed to do this. This is a different way of of tackling the issue. So yeah, let me know what you think, and we'll go from there. So thanks, Ray. Cheers.